The moment billionaire Marcus Vance refused to stand for Judge Judy, the courtroom felt it that split second when arrogance collides with the wrong judge. He thought his wealth made him untouchable. He thought rules were beneath him. But the instant he stayed seated, Judge Judy's eyes said everything. His empire was about to crack open. What happened next didn't just expose his lies, it exposed the man he never wanted the world to see. But before we dive in, tell me, where are you watching from? Don't forget the subscribe button. He did not rise. Not when the bailiff called for order. Not when the room fell silent around him like a collapsing wave. Marcus Vance, billionaire investor, media darling, and self-appointed untouchable, simply adjusted the cuff of his navy suit and leaned back in the defendant's chair as if the courtroom were his personal lounge. The overhead lights carved a faint shine along the edge of his gold watch, each glint a reminder of how he built empires by swallowing the dreams of smaller people. Today, however, the room was not filled with admirers. It was filled with witnesses, skeptics, and one woman who had no patience for theatrics, Judge Judy. The camera of the mind's eye sweeps across the audience, tight jaws, crossed arms, murmurs smothered by anticipation. The plaintiff, a small business owner named Eleanor Marsh, sits stiffly at her table. Her hands clutch a set of documents like they are the last pieces of her dignity. She does not look at Marcus. She looks at the judge, as if somewhere in that stern profile she hopes to find the justice she lost months ago. Judge Judy lowers her reading glasses slightly, studying Marcus with a stillness that quiets even the humming lights above. Her presence is not loud, it is gravitational. She does not need to stand to command the room. Her composure is sharper than any raised voice. "Mr. Vance," she says, her tone even, controlled. "You were instructed to stand when court came to order." Marcus crosses one leg over the other, the leather of his shoe whispering against the polished floor. "My apologies," he replies, though his voice reads more like a smirk. "I do not perform ritual gestures." A ripple of disbelief moves through the benches. Someone in the back audibly exhales. Even the bailiff shifts his weight, alert. Marcus does not notice or pretends not to as he smooths a hand down the front of his suit jacket, altering its fold until it meets his standards. Judge Judy's expression does not change, but the air thickens. "This is not a performance," she says. "It is my courtroom." Marcus's eyes flick toward her. He holds the gaze with the steadiness of a man used to staring down adversaries until they blink first. The room watches the battle silently, every heartbeat a tick in the tension. Eleanor sits smaller in her chair, but her eyes burn. The camera in imagination lingers on her face. Exhaustion, hope, and something like fear. She has already lived the cost of crossing Marcus Vance. Today, she prays the judge will not. Judy closes the file in front of her, a soft but decisive sound. Papers whisper like restless ghosts beneath her hand. "Mr. Vance," she says slowly, "you will stand." Marcus's gaze narrows, the corner of his mouth lifting with the confidence of a man who believes money buys immunity. He does not move. He leans back further and murmurs, loud enough for the courtroom to hear, "I do not stand for anyone." Judge Judy does not raise her voice. She does not lean back. She leans in, and the courtroom tilts with her. The air tightens as she folds her hands over the bench, her gaze cutting through Marcus Vance like an X-ray that has no intention of missing bone. Her silence stretches long enough to make the audience shift in their seats. Marcus pretends not to notice. He adjusts his cuff again, a restless twitch disguised as confidence. "Mr. Vance," she begins, "the rules of this courtroom are simple. You are not special here." Her tone is not harsh. That is what makes it devastating. Marcus tilts his head, his expression caught between annoyance and amusement. "With respect," he says, "standing does not determine truth. I came here to present facts, not to participate in theatrics." Judge Judy exhales, not tired, not irritated, but measured. Precise. A surgeon preparing for the first incision. "You think this is theater?" she asks. "Let me assure you, the only performance happening is the one you are staging." A few quiet gasps flicker from the audience. Eleanor, the plaintiff, keeps her eyes fixed on her papers as if they are the only shield she has left. But her fingers tremble, and the camera of imagination zooms in on that tremor, the emotional cost of months fighting a man who has never heard the word no. Judy continues, "Your unwillingness to follow basic decorum tells me one of two things. Either you do not understand what respect is, or you have grown used to a world where no one requires it from you." Marcus straightens slightly, jaw tightening with the slightest tremor of offense. "I understand respect," he says. "I simply do not grant it blindly." "Blindly?" Judy repeats, lifting a brow. "Sir, I have been doing this longer than you have been pretending to run empires. Do not insult this courtroom by acting as though standing is beneath you." The words land with the weight of gravel. Marcus shifts, his facade denting by a fraction. Not broken, but rattled. Judy flips open the file before her, pages rustling like quiet accusations. "We will begin with your claim," she says. "You allege that Miss Marsh misunderstood your agreement, exaggerated damages, and is attempting to profit from a failed partnership." "That is correct," he answers quickly. Too quickly, like a man clinging to the one narrative he prepared. Judy's eyes sharpen. "Then explain this email." She lifts a printed page between two fingers. Marcus blinks. His attorney stiffens. Judy reads aloud. "We move forward under my terms. She will adapt. You sent this 2 days before. You dissolved her share of the business." Murmurs ripple. Eleanor closes her eyes. Marcus opens his mouth, searching for a foothold. "That email is taken out of context." Judy lowers the page slowly, like lowering a verdict. "Is that," she asks, voice steady, "the lie you want to go on the record?" Marcus swallows the first visible crack and says nothing. The silence answers for him. Her voice is soft at first, too soft for a room carved out of tension. But softness can carry truth. And today, truth finally has a microphone. Eleanor Marsh rises slowly, smoothing the wrinkles in her blouse with hands that refuse to stay still. She takes one small step toward the center of the courtroom, the space between her and Marcus feeling like the distance between worlds. The world he built on wealth, and the world she rebuilt from whatever pieces he left behind. Judge Judy nods for her to speak. A gentle nod, but firm enough to anchor her. Eleanor draws a breath. It trembles in the air. "I started my bakery with nothing," she says. "Just a loan I paid back, a storefront I could barely afford, and a dream my mother taught me to believe in." Her eyes lift not toward Judy, but toward Marcus. "Until he approached me." Marcus shifts, annoyed by the direction of her gaze. His jaw flexes, a single muscle tightening along the side of his face, the only sign that her words are not simply noise to him. Eleanor continues, voice growing steadier. "He offered to invest in expansion. I thought it was the opportunity I had waited for my entire life. I thought he saw potential in me." She swallows hard, the courtroom lights catching the sheen in her eyes. "But he did not invest in my business. He absorbed it, quietly, strategically. Until I was not a partner anymore, I was an employee. And then not even that." Marcus straightens, an affronted exhale escaping him. "That is not what happened." Judge Judy does not even look at him. "Mr. Vance, you will remain silent until I address you." Marcus's mouth shuts, but the indignation flickers in his stare. Eleanor presses on, the emotion in her voice carrying the weight of every sleepless night. "He changed the terms, he changed the contract. And every time I asked why, he said it was standard business. I trusted him because he said he had experience." Her fingers gripped the edge of the plaintiff's table. "I did not know that experience meant knowing exactly how to take everything from me while making it look legal." The courtroom grows still, every set of eyes fixed on her. Judy asks gently, "Miss Marsh, what was the impact of these changes?" Eleanor looks down at her trembling hands. "I lost 18 years of work, my shop, my staff, my savings." Her voice breaks, just slightly. "He took what I built and claimed I should be grateful he touched it." A murmur moves across the room, quiet outrage, collective inhalation. Marcus pushes forward in his chair, unable to contain himself. "This is a complete misrepresentation." Stop. Judy's voice slices the air clean in half. You do not interrupt a witness telling the truth of her experience. Marcus freezes, but his eyes burn. Judge Judy turns back to Eleanor. Is there anything else you want the court to understand? Eleanor nods faintly. Yes. She reaches slowly into her folder. Because what he just said contradicts everything he wrote. She holds up a document, and Judy's eyes sharpen as she says, Miss Marsh, bring that forward. This is where his story breaks. The folder opens. A single sheet slides forward like a blade, and every pair of eyes in the courtroom leans in at once. Judge Judy lifts the document Eleanor brought, holding it delicately between two fingers, as though truth itself might smear if handled carelessly. Marcus watches her movements with a stillness that borders on panic disguised as poise. He rests back in his chair, but his body is too rigid now, too controlled. Wealth can buy suits, attorneys, and silence, but not this moment. Judy begins reading aloud, her voice steady and unhurried. Revised terms effective immediately. Ownership shift required for continued investment. She pauses, letting the language linger in the air like smoke. Partner signature, pending. She lowers the page. Mr. Vance, Miss Marsh claims she never signed this. Marcus arches a brow, summoning a smirk that arrives a beat too late. She did sign it. Eleanor's head snaps upward. Judy's eyes sharpen slightly, watching both of them as if tracking two sides of the same storm. Mr. Vance, Judy says, show me the original signed copy. Marcus glances at his attorney. The man shifts, rifling through his briefcase with the frantic politeness of someone searching for evidence he knows does not exist. Papers rustle. Zippers drag. Moments stretch. The attorney finally murmurs. It appears not to be in the file. Judy tilts her head, her voice cooling. Not in the file. A legal document that fundamentally alters a business partnership is not in the file? Marcus clears his throat. It must have been misplaced. We deal with hundreds of documents per. Stop. Judy raises a hand. The room quiets so suddenly that the faint buzzing of the lights becomes unmistakable. You stated moments ago that Miss Marsh signed this. If this is true, the original should be here. She taps the folder. The sound is soft but resonates like a warning. Eleanor speaks softly yet firmly. I never signed anything after the first agreement. He told me the new terms were just formalities and refused to give me copies. Marcus scoffs. Because you would not understand them. A collective exhale sweeps the courtroom, not shock, but disbelief dripping into outrage. Even the bailiff's posture stiffens, his jaw setting like stone. Judge Judy's gaze hardens. Mr. Vance, arrogance is not a defense. It is a confession wearing expensive clothing. Marcus's face flushes for the first time. Judy returns to the paper. This document shows terms that benefit you exclusively. Eliminate Miss Marsh's voting rights and shift 80% ownership to your corporation. And the signature line, she lifts it to the camera feed above, is blank. The courtroom inhales as one. Marcus sputters, it must be a placeholder. No. Judy interrupts, crisp and final. It is a lie you repeated under oath just moments ago. Marcus's attorney looks down, defeated. The room's atmosphere sharpens, charged with a truth too loud to ignore. Judy reaches for another page beneath the first and says, but this is the part you will not like. The courtroom monitor flickers once, then again, and suddenly, the truth Marcus prayed would stay buried glows across a 12-foot screen. A digital spreadsheet fills the monitor, projected above the judge's bench like a silent witness with perfect memory. Lines of transactions scroll down the display, each one time-stamped, logged, and impossible to erase. Marcus's confidence fractures in real time, a small, involuntary tightening of his jaw, a flicker in his eyes, the microsecond of recognition when a man realizes control has slipped from his hands. Judge Judy points toward the screen with slow, deliberate precision. Mr. Vance, she says, please explain this transfer. The cursor highlights a line, $148,700 moved from the Joint Expansion Fund to an account solely in Marcus Vance's name. Eleanor's breath catches. The audience leans forward. Marcus's attorney presses his lips together in a silent prayer. Marcus forces a chuckle. There must be a mistake. That transfer was a reimbursement. His voice fights to stay calm, but the edges fray like a seam pulled too hard. It was a temporary reallocation of funds, standard for enterprises of our size. Judy's gaze slices through his explanation. Temporary, she repeats. Yet the money never returned to the joint account. Marcus opens his mouth, but nothing coherent forms. Judy nods to the clerk. The spreadsheet zooms out, revealing notes associated with each transaction. The camera of imagination tightens on one line. Note: shift before disclosure she won't notice. A gasp detonates in the room. Eleanor's hand flies to her mouth. Her eyes shine with betrayal so raw the lights above seem to dim out of respect. Marcus rises halfway from his seat. That note is fabricated. It is not my wording. I would never. Sit. Judy's command lands like a gavel, long before she ever touches one. Marcus lowers himself slowly, like the chair has turned to ice. Judy studies the transfer with cold, steady focus. According to the bank records submitted this morning, she lifts a separate folder. This account is not corporate. It is personal, registered only to you. Small ripples of sound sweep through the benches. Disbelief, anger, vindication. The bailiff taps his boot once, the faint echo grounding the tension. Eleanor whispers, "He said we could not afford payroll that month." Her voice trembles, the sentence breaking on the edges of grief. Marcus rubs the bridge of his nose, trying to hide panic behind a gesture. This is being misinterpreted. No, Judy replies. This is being revealed. Her words land with the clarity of a blade leaving its sheath. Marcus tries one last lifeline. You do not understand the pressures of business at my level. Sometimes decisions must be made quickly. And secretly? Judy asks. Without informing your partner? While her company collapses beneath her? Marcus's chest rises sharply, the inhale of a man cornered by his own shadow. His attorney whispers something, but Marcus waves him off. His pride refuses help. His pride has always refused help. Judy folds her hands. Mr. Vance, this transfer directly contradicts your claim that you never mishandled the joint fund. Marcus's composure finally shatters. Fine, he snaps. Yes, I moved it. But she was going to lose the business anyway. The courtroom erupts. Judy raises a single-finger silence, returning instantly, and says, You just admitted more than you intended, Mr. Vance. His words are still hanging in the air, jagged, reckless, undeniable. The courtroom has gone so quiet it feels like sound itself is afraid to move. And Marcus Vance realizes, too late, that he cannot take any of it back. Marcus sits frozen, as if the admission slipped from a part of him he never meant to expose. His chest rises and falls too quickly, the steady billionaire rhythm replaced by something erratic and human. A bead of sweat rolls from his temple, disappearing into the sharp seam of his collar. His attorney leans in, whispering frantically. But Marcus does not hear him. He is staring at the judge like a man watching his own foundation shake. Judge Judy studies him without blinking, not angry, not triumphant, just seeing him. And that alone is enough to make his composure fracture further. Would you like to clarify your statement? She asks calmly. Marcus opens his mouth. A sound comes out, but it is not a sentence, it is a tremor. He coughs, clears his throat, tries again. What I meant was, she was going to lose the business because she made poor decisions. I stepped in to... No, Judy interrupts softly. You stepped over her. The line hits like a cold wind. Even the cameras seem to tighten their focus around him. Marcus's hands twitch on the table. I did what I had to do. People like her do not understand what it takes to operate at my level. There it is again, not just arrogance, but the instinctive belief that his world is the only world. Eleanor flinches, not from insult, but from the memory of how many times he used that exact tone to dismiss her concerns, her warnings, her voice. Judy leans forward, elbows resting lightly on the bench. Mr. Vance, You keep referring to your level. Tell me. She tilts her head, eyes narrowing. What level is that exactly? The level where you transfer joint funds without permission, where you rewrite contracts without signatures, where you gamble with people's livelihoods because you assume they will not fight back? Marcus swallows. His throat moves like it hurts. I acted within my rights. Judy opens the folder again, her fingers turning pages like she is flipping through the layers of his ego. You acted within your impulses, she corrects. And you just confirmed it on record. Marcus jerks upright, voice loud, cracking under pressure. I did not confess anything. The outburst ricochets across the courtroom. The bailiff takes one step forward. Eleanor gasps softly. Audience members stiffen, some leaning back, others leaning forward, as if gravity itself cannot decide what to do with the moment. Judy does not flinch. Mr. Vance, she says gently, your own words spoke louder than any evidence we have reviewed, and they told a story you did not intend to share. Marcus shakes his head violently, panic creeping into the edges of his voice. This is being twisted. I can explain. If people would just stop exaggerating. People? Judy repeats. Or accountability? The question hangs like a verdict waiting for its gavel. Marcus's breath stutters. Judy folds her hands, eyes locked on him, and says, you just confessed without realizing it. If you were sitting in that courtroom, would you stay silent or speak up to stop him? His confidence is gone. What replaces it is not humility, it is fear, dressed in a $1,000 suit, and the room can smell it the way it smells lightning before the strike. Marcus Vance sits rigid, no longer reclining, no longer smirking. His back is too straight, his breath too shallow. Wealth can control rooms, sway crowds, redirect consequences, but it cannot calm a man who has finally heard the sound of his own downfall echo back at him. His fingers drum against the table in uneven beats, each tap a pin drop of panic. Judge Judy watches him, not with satisfaction, but with the measured stillness of someone who has seen this transformation many times before, power collapsing under the quiet weight of truth. Mr. Vance, she says, you may continue, if you believe there is anything left you wish to clarify. Marcus inhales sharply, almost choking on the breath. I believe this has all been slanted against me. These interpretations, these accusations. His voice wavers, betraying the panic building behind his words. Miss Marsh has exaggerated everything from the beginning. Eleanor's head lifts. For the first time, she meets Marcus's eyes fully. Not with fear, with recognition. The way someone looks at a fire they survived. Judy turns to her gently. Miss Marsh, is there anything you want to add? Eleanor hesitates, then reaches into her bag. The courtroom shifts as she pulls out a small device, a recorder, old and scratched from years of use. She holds it with the tenderness of someone holding a piece of truth long buried. I have something you should hear, she says. Marcus freezes. His breath stops. The color drains from his face like ink sliding out of a portrait. The bailiff carries the recorder to the bench. Judy examines it briefly, then nods for Eleanor to proceed. Tell us what this contains. Eleanor steadies herself. 3 months before he dissolved my share, he came to the bakery after hours. He said the partnership needed adjustments. I asked him what kind. Her voice cracks, but she pushes through. He told me, do not worry about the legal parts. Just trust me. Marcus slams a hand against the table. This is manipulation. Sit down, Judy snaps, her tone calm but unbreakable. Marcus sinks back, trembling with rage he cannot afford to release. Eleanor continues, her eyes glistening. I asked him to explain the changes. He told me I did not need to understand them. He told me he had already decided what was best for both of us. Judy nods slowly. And, does this recording confirm your account? Eleanor's voice softens. It confirms more than that. She looks directly at Marcus, and for the first time, he looks away. It records what he said when he thought I could not push back, she adds. What he said when he believed no one would ever hold him accountable. Marcus grabs the edge of the table, knuckles pale, sweat gathering at his collar. Judge Judy's tone shifts colder, sharper. Play the final minute of that recording. Eleanor presses the button. The courtroom holds its breath as static crackles to life. Judy leans forward as a voice. Marcus's voice begins to speak from the speaker, and she says quietly, "Tell the court what he said after this recording, Miss Marsh." The static clears. A single breath, his breath fills the room. And then Marcus Vance's voice pours out like poison, finally freed from its container. At first, the recording captures small sounds. The soft clink of glass, the distant hum of a refrigerator inside Eleanor's bakery, the quiet shuffle of someone pacing. Then comes Marcus's voice, smoother than it is today, confident in that effortless way only the powerful manage. "Eleanor, you worry too much." The room tenses. Marcus closes his eyes, jaw tight, as if physically bracing against his own words. On the recording, he laughs a low, dismissive chuckle. "You do not need to understand the contract. You just need to trust me." Eleanor flinches at the memory. The audience shifts closer. Judge Judy keeps her gaze fixed on the speakers, her expression unreadable, like a surgeon preparing for the final incision. The audio continues. "These forms, they are complicated. You would get overwhelmed. Let me handle the hard parts. Your job is to sign where I tell you." A gasp ripples through the court. Even Marcus's attorney looks down, a flicker of shame passing across his features. Marcus tries to speak, but Judy raises a single hand. Silence snaps back into place. The recording goes on. "And if you do not want to sign, well," a long pause meets the courtroom. "Well, I will have to move forward without you. You are replaceable? Eleanor, I can scale this business with or without your name on the door." The cruelty is casual, confident, final. Present-day Marcus lowers his head. His shoulders curl inward as if he is trying to shrink beneath the weight of what he once said. But the recording is not finished. There is a soft rustle, Marcus stepping closer in the bakery. Then his voice drops, lower, colder. "I can bury you in paperwork. You will not win. You will not outspend me. Do not test me." Gasps explode across the benches like small detonations. Even the bailiff stiffens, arms crossing instinctively, his posture protective toward the plaintiff. Eleanor stands completely still, eyes lowered, tears clinging to her lashes but refusing to fall. Her strength is quiet, but undeniable. The room feels it. And then, the final 3 seconds, a whispered sentence, one Marcus never imagined would echo off the walls of a courtroom. "No one holds me accountable. Not even the law." The recording ends with a click that sounds too loud in the stunned silence that follows. Judge Judy exhales slowly, the sound soft but heavy enough to bend the air. Her eyes turn to Marcus, and for the first time, there is something like disappointment in them, not for the crime, but for the arrogance that fueled it. "Mr. Vance," she says, "the game has ended." Marcus opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. Nothing can. Judy narrows her gaze and says, "Because now we discuss what happens when you finally face consequences." For the first time today, Marcus Vance stands, not out of pride, but because Judge Judy tells him to, and he finally understands she is the only authority left in the room. Marcus rises slowly, his movements stiff, as if every muscle is fighting against gravity and ego at once. The courtroom watches him shift from defiance to compliance, the transformation subtle but unmistakable. The suit still fits him, but it no longer looks like armor. It looks like a costume someone forgot to take off after the play ended. Judge Judy studies him with the quiet intensity of someone who has seen this moment hundreds of times, the moment the powerful realize power has boundaries. Her hands rest calmly on the bench, fingers interlaced, expression steady as stone. "Mr. Vance," she begins, "you have just heard your own voice admit that you believed you were above accountability." Marcus swallows hard. He cannot meet her eyes. The courtroom lights reflect off the slight sheen on his forehead, fear disguised as perspiration. "I was speaking out of frustration," he mutters. "No." Judy's voice is soft, but final. "You were speaking from entitlement." The audience murmurs. The tension returns like a tide surging back to shore. Eleanor stays seated, arms folded protectively across her midsection, watching Marcus with a mixture of pain and quiet strength. Judy continues, her tone crisp and controlled. This court is not interested in theatrics, excuses, or the inflated self-image you have spent your life cultivating. It is interested in truth, and the truth came from your own mouth before anything came from mine. Marcus shifts his weight, gripping the edge of the table so tightly the veins in his hands stand out. I did not mean, you did, Judy interrupts. And meaning it or not does not change that you said it. Nor does it change the harm you caused. Marcus breathes in sharply, like a man stepping onto thin ice. I made business decisions. Tough ones. Decisions she could not understand. Judy's eyes narrow. No. You made unilateral decisions that stripped your partner of her rights while profiting from her trust. She leans forward slightly. Tell me, Mr. Vance, do you believe that is good business? The pause stretches. Marcus's silence is louder than any denial he could offer. Finally, he whispers, no. The single word lands like a collapsing structure, quiet, heavy, irreversible. Eleanor bows her head, relief trembling at the edge of her composure. Judy straightens, her tone shifting to something colder. We have reached the point where the question is no longer about ownership or paperwork. It is about intent, and your intent became clear the moment that recording played. Marcus looks up, hope flickering desperately in his eyes. Your Honor, what happens now? Judy folds her hands deliberately, an action so controlled it becomes a warning. The cameras zoom in on her face, the room breathless in anticipation. What happens now? She says. Depends on what else you have been hiding. And we are about to find out. Do you think remorse should ever erase guilt? Or does justice demand consequence, no matter what? The side door opens with a soft creak. No one breathes. And Marcus Vance turns pale, before he even knows who is standing there. A woman steps into the courtroom mid-40s, shoulders tense, hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles tremble. She is not dressed like someone who wants attention. Her clothes are plain, her posture small. But the expression on her face, the mixture of dread and determination, pulls the room into a new orbit of silence. Marcus whispers under his breath. No, no, she would not. His attorney touches his arm, but he recoils as if burned. Judge Judy lifts her eyes. State your name. The woman swallows, voice thin but honest. Caroline Dean. Marcus closes his eyes. Hard. The kind of hard that means I know exactly who she is, and I prayed she would never appear. Judy continues. Miss Dean, what is your relationship to the defendant? Caroline's gaze drifts toward Marcus only for a moment before she forces herself to look back at the judge. I worked for Mr. Vance for 7 years. I managed internal records, including digital files. The courtroom shifts. Eleanor's lips part slightly, hope flickering like a fragile flame. Marcus shakes his head, barely audible. This is unnecessary. She is a disgruntled employee. Caroline's voice sharpens, not loud, but anchored. I left because he told me to destroy documents. The room erupts in gasps, sharp and synchronized. Judy raises a hand, silence snaps back into place. Her eyes lock onto Marcus with surgical focus. Mr. Vance, is this true? Marcus stammers. A sound more than a sentence. She is exaggerating, misremembering. She took things personally. I took honesty personally, Caroline says, stronger now. And he punished me for it. Every person in the courtroom seems to lean in, pulled forward by the gravity of unraveling truth. Judy gestures gently. Miss Dean, explain to the court what documents you were asked to destroy. Caroline releases a shaky breath, her voice trembling at first, then refining into clarity. Financial records, email correspondences, revised contracts he did not want Miss Marsh to see. Anything that showed he moved money without authorization. Marcus's face drops. Not theatrical, not strategic. It drops the way a mask falls when there is nothing left to grip. Caroline continues. He told me he would handle the narrative and that no one would question him. He said. Her voice stops, suddenly strangled by memory. Go on, Judy encourages. Caroline steadies herself. He said, "People like her trust too easily. That is why people like me win." A murmur spreads across the benches. The air grows heavy, almost metallic, like the moment before a lightning strike. Marcus slams his palm down. "Enough. She is lying." "Sit," Judy commands. He does instantly. The power shift is no longer subtle. It is complete. Judy turns back to Caroline. "You came here voluntarily?" "I did," she says softly. "Because I could not watch someone else lose everything just because he believed he was untouchable." Judy nods, an unreadable calm settling across her features. "Miss Dean," she says, leaning forward, "tell this court exactly what he said on the day he made you erase everything." Caroline Dean looks at Marcus as if seeing a ghost. Not the kind haunting her, but the kind finally being dragged into the light. Her breath trembles as she gathers the strength to speak. The entire courtroom leans toward her, even the humming lights seem to dim, surrendering the moment to her voice. Caroline's fingers twist together, then unclasp, then twist again. A war between fear and necessity playing out in the space between her hands. "When he asked me to delete the files," she begins softly, "I told him it wasn't right. I said it would hurt the people who trusted him." She swallows. "He didn't care." Marcus stares at the floor, motionless, like a statue cracked down the center. Caroline continues. "He walked into my office, sat on the edge of my desk, and said," she hesitates, voice catching. He said, "Caroline, the world is for people bold enough to take it. You can either help me or get crushed with the ones who don't matter." A collective gasp pulses through the benches. Eleanor covers her mouth. The bailiff straightens, jaw tightening. Judge Judy's gaze sharpens with an intensity so precise it could cut glass. "Mr. Vance," she says coldly, "did you say that?" Marcus lifts his head slowly. His eyes are red-rimmed, his composure now a memory burned away by truth. "I don't recall," he mutters. Caroline's voice rises, firmer now. "That wasn't all." Judy nods. "Continue." Caroline grips the witness stand, her knuckles white. "I told him I couldn't delete legal documents, that it could ruin someone's business or life." Her voice cracks, raw. He stood up, leaned close, and whispered in my ear, "No one will ever know. And even if they do, who's going to believe her over me?" The room erupts, whispers slicing through the air like scattered glass. Judy strikes the desk once, not loud, not angry, just enough to restore silence with authority, sharp enough to silence the storm. Marcus sits hollowed out, eyes unfocused, as Caroline wipes a tear quietly from her cheek. "And," she says, choking back a sob, "then he told me something that kept me up at night for months." Judy leans forward. "What did he say, Miss Dean?" Caroline looks at Eleanor not with pity, but with the desperate honesty of someone who wishes she had spoken sooner. He said, "People like her cling to hope. I use hope to control them." Eleanor presses a hand to her chest, wounded by the memory, but standing emotionally, spiritually despite the blow. Marcus tries to speak, but his voice collapses into silence before any words emerge. Judy exhales slowly, the temperature of her tone dropping. "Mr. Vance, this testimony reveals a pattern of intent, not accident, not negligence. Intent. Malicious, calculated intent." The silence becomes suffocating, thick with the weight of consequences forming in the air. Caroline sniffles, wiping the corner of her eye. "I didn't come forward then, but I'm here now, because someone needed to tell the truth." Judy nods once, a powerful, grounding acknowledgement. "And tell it you did," she says. "But what this reveals about you, Mr. Vance," she leans in, eyes narrowing, "changes everything. Marcus Vance no longer looks like a billionaire. He looks like a man standing in the ruins of his own making, and every breath he takes seems to hurt." The courtroom hums with a heavy, stunned quiet, not outrage, not triumph, but the stillness that follows a truth too heavy to ignore. Marcus sits hunched forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly as if holding himself together. The Titan who entered the room in an immaculate navy suit has shrunk inside it. His shoulders slope, his breath trembles, his eyes stare into nothing. Judge Judy watches him with a gaze that is firm yet not cruel. Compassion flickers at the edges, not sympathy, but recognition. She has seen this unraveling before. The moment when arrogance loses to consequence and the person beneath finally steps into the light. "Mr. Vance," she says quietly. "Look at me." He hesitates, then lifts his head slowly. His eyes are glassy, red around the edges, the sheen of a man trying desperately not to break where others can see. "The testimony we just heard," Judy continues, "does not simply show misconduct. It shows intent. It shows a deliberate pattern of manipulation, fear, and control." Marcus opens his mouth to respond, but the words crumble before forming. His bottom lip trembles almost imperceptibly. He swallows hard, as if trying to push something painful down. Eleanor watches him, her expression softening despite everything. She looks at a man who tore her life apart, and yet in this moment she sees someone painfully human. It does not erase what he did, but it colors the space in between justice and remorse. Marcus finally speaks, his voice cracking. I didn't know how else to keep things from falling apart." Judy tilts her head. "Explain." He wipes his palm across his forehead, fingers shaking. "Every venture I run, every deal, every investor, they all see me as someone who cannot fail, someone bulletproof, someone who always makes the perfect move." The courtroom listens in utter stillness. Marcus's voice weakens. "But my father used to say, only the weak need rules. So I grew up believing that control was the only way to survive, that if I admitted any mistake, everything I built would collapse." A quiet, painful realization washes across the benches. This is the core, the fracture inside the man they thought was only marble and steel. Marcus continues, whispering now. "I wasn't trying to destroy Eleanor's business. I was trying to prove I wasn't weak. I panicked. I made choices that spiraled." His voice breaks. "I didn't know how to stop." Caroline looks down, tears slipping silently. Eleanor presses a hand to her heart, not forgiving but understanding the complicated truth of human damage. Judy's voice is soft but steady. "A person is not strong because they never break, Mr. Vance. Strength is shown in accountability, not dominance." Marcus nods, tears gathering. "I never meant to destroy anyone," he whispers. Judy's jaw tightens, sorrow and justice intertwining. "But you did." She closes the file slowly, deliberately. "And now we address the cost of that choice." Eleanor Marsh rises slowly, not with triumph, not with anger, but with the quiet strength of someone who has finally found her voice. The courtroom seems to inhale as she steps forward. Her footsteps are soft, but each one carries the weight of years of building, losing, scraping together hope, and standing in the shadow of a man who believed she could be erased. She doesn't look at Marcus at first. She looks at Judge Judy, as if anchoring herself in the presence of someone who finally saw her. "Miss Marsh," Judy says gently, "if you wish to speak, you may." Eleanor nods, steadying her breath before turning toward the bench. "I do," she whispers. Then louder, stronger, "I need to." Marcus lifts his head. His eyes meet hers, and for the first time, he looks afraid not of consequence, but of the truth she carries. Eleanor begins softly. "For 18 years, I poured every hour, every dollar, every piece of myself into my bakery. I missed birthdays. I missed holidays. I missed sleep." Her voice cracks, but she pushes through. "But I didn't mind. I was building something honest." She turns to Marcus, her expression trembling between hurt and clarity. "When you came to me with promises of expansion, I believed you. I believed in the potential you saw. I believed in every word you said about partnership." Marcus lowers his eyes, shame rolling off him like a slow tide. Eleanor continues, "What I didn't know was that while I was dreaming of a bigger future, you were planning how to take it from me." The audience murmurs a soft, collective ache. Eleanor's hands clasp in front of her, small tremors running through her fingers. "Losing my business wasn't just losing money. It was losing my identity. I woke up one morning and realized everything I had built, everything I loved, belonged to someone else. Her voice softens with a grief so honest it quiets even the air. I started baking when I was 8 years old. My mother taught me that feeding people is a kind of love. My bakery, it was my way of giving that love back. Marcus looks up at her, and he is visibly shattered. The arrogance that once held him upright is gone. In its place is a man who finally sees the human cost of his choices. Eleanor continues, tears gathering but refusing to fall. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to ruin you. All I wanted was my life back. All I wanted was fairness. Judge Judy watches her, something soft flickering behind her stern expression respect. Eleanor draws a final breath. I'm not here to destroy him. I'm here to get back what he took, and to make sure he never does this to anyone else. The words land like a soft hammer. Their power is not in volume, but truth. She turns to the judge. Your Honor, all I want now is justice. Real justice. The courtroom holds still, the kind of silence that comes only when something honest has cracked open the air. Judy leans forward, eyes steady. Miss Marsh, what do you believe is fair? Judge Judy doesn't speak at first. She just watches Marcus Vance. Not the billionaire, not the titan, but the man finally stripped down to truth. The silence stretches long enough to make the courtroom feel smaller, tighter, as if all the oxygen has gathered at the bench, waiting for her to decide how it will be used. Eleanor's words still hang in the air, soft but immovable. Caroline wipes a tear with a tissue the bailiff quietly handed her. And Marcus sits motionless, hands clasped together, his eyes unfocused, as if staring into a life he no longer recognizes. Judy finally lifts her gaze to the plaintiff. Miss Marsh, she says, voice warm but steady. Thank you. It takes courage to speak through pain. Eleanor nods, her expression fragile yet firm. Then Judy turns toward Marcus, and the temperature of the room changes. Mr. Vance, she begins, you have heard the impact of your actions. You have heard the consequences, not from legal documents or spreadsheets, but from the people you harmed. Marcus's throat tightens. He attempts to speak, but Judy raises a hand. Not to silence him, but to guide the space. I want you to understand something, she says. Consequence isn't punishment. It's the reflection of our choices. You built your world on control, on fear, on the belief that others existed beneath you. That belief has cost people dearly. And now, she pauses, letting the gravity land. It finally costs you. Marcus's shoulders sag. A breath escapes him, sharp and trembling, as if the reality of what she's saying presses against his chest. You manipulated contracts, Judy continues, voice low and unrelenting. You reallocated funds without consent. You attempted to bury evidence. And you used intimidation as a business strategy. Marcus closes his eyes. But, Judy adds gently, unexpectedly, you also revealed something essential today, something that matters. He looks up, broken, listening. You acted out of fear. Not greed, not malice for its own sake. Fear of failing. Fear of being seen as anything less than invincible. Marcus's breath shakes. Caroline and Eleanor both watch him, not forgiving, but seeing. This does not erase what you did, Judy says, but it tells me you are not beyond accountability or change. A faint ripple of whispering moves through the audience. Shock, confusion, contemplation. Judy now sits straighter, her tone shifting from reflective to absolute. And because accountability is the bridge between who you were and who you could become, this court is prepared to deliver consequences that reflect the depth of your actions. Marcus grips the table, bracing. But before I give my ruling, she continues, there is one more truth you must hear. The room stiffens, breaths held, hearts caught mid-beat. Marcus swallows, voice raw. What truth? Judy leans forward, eyes unwavering. The truth that consequences aren't meant to break you, but to rebuild you into something better than the person who walked through those doors. The words land like a final echo before the verdict. Mr. Vance, she says, prepare yourself. The ruling is coming, and it will change the direction of your life. Before you hear the verdict, ask yourself, can people truly change? Or do they merely learn to hide their flaws better? Judge Judy lowers her eyes to the file, not to read it, but to close it, because the truth no longer needs pages. The courtroom is silent in a way that feels sacred, as if the walls themselves understand that what comes next is not simply a ruling but a reckoning. Marcus Vance stands straighter than he has since the unraveling began, though his shoulders still tremble. Eleanor sits with her hands clasped lightly in her lap, not anxious now, but steady like someone who has climbed through fire and finally reached the last rung. Judy rests her hands atop the closed file. When she speaks, her voice is calm, measured, and resonant with finality. This court has reviewed every piece of evidence, every testimony, and every word spoken in this room today. And what emerges is not complicated. It is clear, crystal clear. Marcus swallows, bracing for impact. You misled your partner. You siphoned funds intended for mutual benefit. You weaponized trust, and you attempted to erase the very documents that would have exposed your actions. She pauses not for effect, but to let the truth breathe. However, she continues, you also revealed something profound, that beneath the arrogance, beneath the wealth and bravado, lies a frightened human being who believed control was the only way to avoid collapse. Marcus's face softens, shame deepening. Eleanor looks down, absorbing the weight of the moment. But fear, Judy says, does not absolve harm. It explains your actions, it does not excuse them. The camera of imagination glides across the courtroom, Caroline wiping a tear, the bailiff standing firm, the audience leaning forward in collective anticipation. My ruling is as follows, Judy declares. Restitution will be awarded to Miss Marsh in the maximum amount allowable under civil jurisdiction, including compensatory damages for losses incurred due to your unauthorized financial actions. Eleanor gasps softly, not in triumph, but in relief so profound it nearly folds her in half. You will also be required, Judy continues, to return all assets acquired through the dissolved partnership and to provide full documentation of every transaction conducted under its name. Marcus nods weakly, accepting blow after blow with the quiet of a man who has finally stopped running. And, she adds, a recommendation will be made to the appropriate oversight bodies regarding your conduct. Because while I cannot determine criminal liability here, accountability does not end when this gavel falls. A ripple moves through the audience, a collective exhale they had been holding for far too long. Marcus speaks barely a whisper. Your Honor, I understand. Judy regards him with a gaze that is neither harsh nor forgiving, simply true. I hope you do, she says softly. Because the measure of a person is not found in their wealth or their power, but in what they do when their power ends. Tears gather in Marcus's eyes. He does not wipe them away. Judy lifts the gavel. The room seems to lean toward it. This court finds for the plaintiff. The sound reverberates like a final heartbeat. Eleanor closes her eyes, tears slipping free, quiet tears, the kind born from release, not victory. Marcus lowers his head, hands trembling, the last echoes of his old life dissolving into the silence.